Modern Horizons 2 looks like it's going to be one of the craziest and most complex sets that we have seen in a long time. It's going to feature at least 59 different mechanics and offers crazy concepts like trampling over planeswalkers.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles. My friends, today we are in for a treat. The teaser, the official teaser list for Modern Horizons 2 has arrived. So everything we're going to talk about today is a fact, all right? This is all included in Modern Horizons 2, but we only get to see part of the picture. We don't get the full cards, right? So this is a list that was released by Mark Rosewater. It's got my imagination fired right up. So let's go through some of these items because I think you guys are going to be able to help me figure out what some of the stuff that isn't obvious to me is going to turn out to be. So first thing on the list is actually an item that falls right into that category, and that is a legendary character best known for having his name on a powerful card that's been banned, finally gets a legendary creature. So I went through the banned lists for Modern, Legacy, all the old school formats, and I didn't see any card that had a character's name in it where we don't already have the legendary card for, like we don't already have a legendary creature for. So I'm thinking that this might actually be based on flavor text. So it might be somebody who shows up in the flavor text of a banned card. Now I haven't been through the flavor text of every single banned card because there's a lot of them, but I would love to hear your guesses on what legendary character we're going to end up seeing, right? Because this is a little bit of an interesting tweak in terms of it's a card that's been banned, right? That's an interesting teaser. The next item on the list is a theme on only a handful of cards in Modern Horizons gets a larger presence. So this could be a number of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be a theme that's newer to Magic, right? Because Modern Horizons had a number of different themes going on to it, right? You had like your snow concept and poison concept, things like that, right? So I mean, it could be any number of things. The next item on the list is a frog 26 years in the making. Now this one is really high on my interest level list because what could it be? There's not enough information here. What? Okay, like what are we talking about? An old school frog that was mentioned somewhere? Or like what? How does it tie back to 26 years ago? That's interesting. Then we've got new split cards, which if you've ever seen them, they're magic cards with just they look like two tiny little magic cards side by side on one card. Now, the next item we have is a Future Sight mechanic reused for the first time. And this is always cool because Future Sight was originally designed to be just that, us seeing into the future. It was full of a bunch of different concepts, some of which we originally thought were going to be red herrings, like the riggers that ended up being in the Unstable set. But there's a lot of weird exploration in Future Sight, and in all honesty, it has contributed a lot of different concepts to the game. And off the top of my head, I can't really think of a Future Sight mechanic that we haven't used yet. Obviously they exist, but I can't think of any off the top of my head because most of them have already gotten their way onto cards. The next item is another hugely exciting for me one, and that is a character that first appeared in a Magic novel finally becomes a legendary creature. Now, my number one pick for this is Ashnod, because we've been waiting for an Ashnod card for a very long time. And we have a number of cards attributed to Ashnod, right? Now my brain's going, wait, was there ever a card, was any of the Ashnod cards ever banned? Because we're talking about a card that's been banned, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on the banned list. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the first point on the list again and realizing that even though I looked over all the banned cards, that doesn't mean that's all the possibilities, because it just has to have been banned at a certain point, but cards get unbanned as well. So theoretically, maybe even the first item could be Ashnod. But either way, I think it's most likely going to be Ashnod. Although we have had characters showing up in a novel. The author of the Underworld cookbook Asmora Nora Ramalama Ding Dong. I can't remember the name. It's this insanely long, and I butcher pronouncing it anyways, name. So it's also possibly Asmora Nora Ramalama Ding Dong. So keep that in mind, all right? Next item on the list, a card with the number words 4 and 14. That could be anything. I mean, 14 is a huge number. So what is it? Are you gaining 14 life? Like, is it a card that cares about having 14 counters on it? There's a lot of things this could be and not a lot of information. But admittedly, huge numbers like 14, that's kind of exciting, right? The next item, a fan favorite animal character finally becomes a legendary creature. I'll be honest, I have no clue what they're referencing here. I don't know what they could mean by a fan favorite animal character. I mean, I know what the concept means, but I don't have any guesses. Who is a fan favorite animal that's been around? You know what I mean? Like, all the animals I think of are sentient, sort of like humanoid animals, right? I mean, obviously animals are sentient, but it's just, I think of like a Johnny and Miri and all these people we already know, but they're humanoids, right? So I don't know, maybe, I mean, animal character could be just an animal, or it could be an animal demi-human kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know if we're being led astray here and that's what it is. And because Rosewater made this list and he likes to try and be clever with it. So it's either possibility here, but I genuinely don't have a guess for a favorite animal character. Who could it be? Let me know, guys, in the comments if you have guesses on this stuff, all right? The next item on the list is a white enchantment with a trigger that investigates. So this could be more or less exciting depending on how the trigger works. If it's just a come into play trigger, that's not nearly as exciting as a repeatable trigger, because investigating, if you don't know, is the process of when you investigate, you create a clue token. So yeah, I'm gonna get a clue. Anyways, you pay 2 mana, sacrifice the clue token, and draw a card. So it's kind of like a food token, but instead of gaining 3 life, you get to draw a card. So if this is an enchantment that continually creates like clue tokens, that could be pretty solid. But without knowing what the enchantment does, and if it's an enter the battlefield trigger, it's hard to know how excited to get about this particular item on the list. But I am definitely curious. Next up, a Planeswalker from the past that has previously only had a legendary creature card. This one I feel is slam dunk gimme. I can nail this and say very, very confidently, it's going to be Dack and Blackblade. We already looked at the packaging for the upcoming set, and I showed you guys Dack and Blackblade right beside the artwork. It's undeniable that Dack and Blackblade is in Modern Horizons 2. That part's not up for debate. And Dack and Blackblade has always been a Planeswalker, right? Like, even when the original card was printed back in Legends, he was a Planeswalker then. But Planeswalker cards didn't exist, so they couldn't make him a Planeswalker. Nowadays, Wizards likes to use Planeswalkers as their face of the set, right? They make them mythic, they make them big and showy, they make them the face of the set. And that's Dack and Blackblade to a T, right? He's the face of the set. They've made him a Planeswalker for sure, and I'm sure he's going to be beefy boy goodness. It's going to be good times. Moving on. Next we have, here are some snippets from rules text that appear in the set. So, this is actually the wording you're going to see straight up on the card. So, whenever you cast your 3rd spell each turn. Now, we already have a number of cards that say, whenever you cast your 2nd spell in a turn, do X, right? Throne of Eldraine, it was Throne of Eldraine, as far as I recall, that had that theme where they had a number of cards where once you cast your 2nd card, boom, you get this bonus. So whenever you cast your 3rd spell, I assume it's going to have a pretty significant bonus, because casting 3 spells in a turn isn't a particularly easy thing to do. Certainly it's doable, but you're going to want a big payoff for doing it. Next rule snippet we have is, for each other ooze you control. Honestly, that just makes me think like something along the lines of an ooze that's an ooze lord, but in reverse, where it gets like +2/+2 for each other ooze you control. Something like that. That is what it says to me, although that is pretty basic and plain. So it might be something completely different than that. Next up, we've got a censored snippet. If an ability of a censored or another censored you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So it's interesting wording. What if we shove words in there? If an ability of a artifact or another enchantment you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. If an ability of an artifact or another creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So whatever type of permanent this ability is on, it's going to affect its own kind of permanent because it says, or another you control, right? So whatever card type it is, it's going to affect those card types and one other card type. So I'm going to say this is on a creature and it affects creatures and artifacts. So if an ability of a artifact or another creature you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Now, that's just me arbitrarily deciding that's what it's going to be, right? So it could be other things. Let me know your best guesses. The next rule snippet we have, this ability costs 1 less to activate for each +1/+1 counter on creatures you control. Ooh, that's probably going to be a big ability, right? Where it's just like, it costs a ton of mana, but if you can rack up a bunch of +1/+1 counters, then it decreases it by that many +1/+1 counters. Because it's not counting up the creatures, it's counting up the number of +1/+1 counters. There's potential for that to be really cool. Next item on the list. You may sacrifice a mountain rather than pay this spell's mana cost. We've had a couple of different spells in Magic where you can sack a land rather than paying the spell's mana cost. I'm guessing this is probably going to be a half-decently strong card because Wizards has been making some powerful free cast spells lately, and this is going to be a card that is most likely brand new to, I'm guessing it's going to be brand new to Modern. Well, no, they're all new to Modern. I'm guessing it's going to be a brand new Magic card specifically created for Modern Horizons 2. So that could be pretty powerful. Now, the next ability, the next snippet here is really, really weird to me. I have to say, I'm genuinely curious about what's going on here. And that is Trample over Planeswalkers, which is a very strange concept. So I envision this on a big creature. Like, I would expect this to be on a creature that is at least 6 power. So the idea is it doesn't have trample. However, if you attack a Planeswalker with it, then let's say you attack a Planeswalker and it has 4 loyalty and you're attacking with your 6 power creature. Boom, you destroy the Planeswalker with the first 4 damage. The additional 2 damage would then spill over to the defending player. That is an interesting concept. Conditional trample is it's never really been explored before, right? We don't have abilities that just trample over specific types of permanents, unless you want to get really pedantic and go, well, actually, creatures are a specific type of permanent, and we've always trampled over them. So yeah, I mean, if you want to say that, but you get what I'm saying, right? This is a very new concept. This is new ground we're treading, and it's very interesting. Speaking of new ground that's very interesting, look at the next ability. The next, well, no, it is an ability, right? It's this text snippet that says, if an insect card was milled this way. So we're going to be dealing with the mill effect that specifically cares if an insect is sent to the graveyard. And it does make me wonder if we're going to see a return of tribal cards and if we'll have insect tribal cards to increase the amount of cards that can trigger this ability. I'm definitely interested to know what this is going to be because it really feels out there. And I love it when Magic explores new concepts that I've never seen. Like if I saw this somewhere else, if I saw like spoilers on Reddit or something like that, like rumors, and it said there's going to be a card that cares if you mill insects, I'd be like, sure there is, buddy. But this is an official list. This is real. So it's going to be in there, which is crazy to me. I really want to know what's going on. Now, that's just the first page. Check it out. We got more. Let's continue onwards. Protection from permanents with corruption counters on them. So I assume that this is most likely a creature that gains protection from permanents with corruption counters on them and corrupts things. Like maybe it's like Lord of Corruption and he's got an activated ability that's either tap him to put a like a corruption counter on something, or pay 4 black mana, put a corruption counter on something. I don't know. It definitely feels like a black aligned ability to me, but I'm curious as to how it will work in execution. Next up, we've got an insane sounding card. Choose a number between 1 and 5. Flip that many coins. So for anybody who likes to play with Krark's thumb or Krark's other thumb, that's going to be an exciting phrase. It's like, wait, I can flip up to 5 coins with 1 card? But here's the thing. You get to choose between 1 and 5, which most likely means that with each coin flip you go for, it increases your risk. You know what I mean? It could be like, choose a number between 1 and 5. For each time it comes up heads, do 2 damage to any target. But if any card comes up tails, instead, this card deals no damage. Something like that, where you can go for big risk, big reward, but it's dicey. You know? That's just off the top of my head. So let me know what you guys think. The next snippet is, instead create 1 of each. So this is probably a card that's something like, make a 2/2 flyer token or a 3/4 beast token, right? Maybe with Trample, something like that. Or if you pay the additional cost, create 1 of each instead. You know what I mean? Or it could be one that's like, choose from these 5 different kinds of token creatures. But if you paid like 6 extra mana or paid 5 life or whatever the other conditions are, then instead create 1 of each of the tokens. That's the kind of vibe I get. The next thing we're going to talk about are type lines. So this is mostly pretty much just about creature types, right? So the first thing is artifact creature assembly worker. I have to admit that doesn't really get me hyped up. There are some older cards that reference assembly workers, but none of the cards that reference assembly workers are terribly exciting or do anything really, really impressive. The next item is creature dinosaur illusion. An illusory dinosaur. Now, this is an interesting concept to me. It kind of screams green-blue. And how are they going to execute it? Because a lot of illusion creatures and illusionary cards tend to be something like, they have an ephemeral nature to them, right? So either they'll have a really low toughness, like you could have a dinosaur illusion and it's an 8/1. So it's this massive dinosaur, but you can just kind of wave through it really quickly and disperse it because it's an illusion. Or another way they handle illusions is they could give you a really cheap dinosaur in terms of like, you only pay 3 mana and you get something crazy like a 5/5 or 6/6. But if it gets targeted by a spell or ability, you have to sacrifice it. That whole like disbelief illusionary concept. But dinosaur illusion definitely gets my attention because I have never seen a Magic card with dinosaur illusion as a creature type. The next item, whoa, I didn't notice this on my previous read through. Dothy Rogue. Are they going to put Shadow? They're probably going to put Shadow in Modern Horizons because the Dothy were beings that were trapped between 2 worlds, right? And they lived in the Shadow realm. So bringing back the Dothy says to me, we're going to be getting Shadow creatures. And Shadow is a weird sort of, your creatures can only be blocked and blocked by creatures with Shadow. Whoa, dude, what if they put Shadow and Horsemanship in the set and just went crazy with it? That'd be funky. Next item, creature skeleton shaman. Okay, I mean, it's an undead shaman. It's all right. Kind of evocative. Oh, next, elemental incarnation. Ooh. See, the thing about elementals and incarnations is they can be virtually anything, right? An incarnation of an element. We see that in all kinds of different ways. So in one way, it feels a little bit mundane, but in another way, it makes me think, oh, maybe it's going to be some big, crazy legendary card, right? Then we've got artifact creature Clue Mirror. Wait a minute. Okay, because we talked about investigating and clues. Pay 2 mana, sacrifice a clue to draw a card. So this is probably an artifact creature that is just a little donk. He's just going to be a weird little like 1/1 or 2/2. And then it's probably pay 2 mana, sacrifice him to crack him open for knowledge. Where it's like you just grab him, pop his head off. Papa's got to learn. Hawk his head off. Bam, get out of here. All right. That's interesting. Tribal artifact Lurgoy. We are going to have tribal cards. All right, cool. Weird. Tribal artifact. Lurgoyf. Wait a minute. It's not a creature? It's not a tribal artifact creature? So we're getting the Lurgoyf tribe expanded in Modern Horizons? Whoa. All right. This is crazy. I'll admit, when it came to this last part with the creature types, I didn't look at it as much. Because to me, I was like, there's probably not as much as that's exciting in this part of it. But I was wrong. Tribal artifact Lurgoyf really fires up the imagination. What even can that be? Is it... No, it can't. It's not equipment. So, what? Dude, I don't even know. I'm moving on. This one, if you've got ideas about what tribal artifact Lurgoyf could be, let me know, because that's a genuine head scratcher. Then we've got a legendary creature. Merfolk God! Yes, boy! Are you kidding me? Yeah! Right on. The idea of I like gods. I think they're cool, especially because they're powerful, right? But, this is a Merfolk God. Interesting. I want to know more. We've got a snake elf scout. Oh, is it part snake, part elf? That's different as well. And he just happens to be a scout. I'm just out taking a look around. And then we've got a squirrel warrior. A legendary squirrel warrior. Maybe that's what we saw in the pack art with that one squirrel guy who's in the front. All right. That's going to make a lot of squirrel players happy. And then the bottom item on the list here says, finally, here are some of the mechanics in the set. I replaced all the letters with X's. So basically, it's just a long list. There's a whole nother page of this that I did not bother to prepare for this video because it's literally just X, 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 X. So there you've got two mechanics in the set that are 4 letters in the mechanic, okay? You've got a bunch that are 5, 6, and so on like that. Up to a total on the list. He literally included 59 line items. And it says, here are some of the mechanics in the set. So there may be more than 59 different mechanics in Modern Horizons 2. Absolutely mind-blowing. So, my friends, that brings us to the end. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to look fresh and fly like me, get yourself an owner of fine luxury cardboard rectangle shirt. It's listed in the description if you want to be grabbing some of that goodness. And yeah, list of my top patrons scrolling on by. Thanks for coming by. Gonna leave a link to my Chandelar playthrough and my Magic Lore channel here at the end of the video. So, thanks for coming by, my friends. See you next time.